for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Finley. I'm with the Rhode Island chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, and it is my pleasure to introduce Kelly McCarthy. She has been in the senior health industry for over 25 years. Kelly is the Vice President of Engagement and Memory Care Services for the Northbridge Companies. She is board certified dementia educator for the National Institute for Dementia Education and a certified educator for the Alzheimer's Association's Train the Trainer Memory Care class. Kelly is the author of Brass Ring Memory, encouraging stories using practical methodologies to help caregivers reach for their goals in Alzheimer's and dementia care. In 2018, Kelly's 8-hour Brass Ring Dementia Professional Education Program was approved as a nationally recognized dementia certification through the National Institute for Dementia Education. Kelly?
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm certified, all right. I am certified. I don't know if anyone, I think there's one, right, that I know so far. I'm going to talk loud, and I like to walk around. If you would like, you can, like I said, I took a shower. You're more than welcome to come up a little closer. It's all good. Who's been to my class before from the Alzheimer's Association here in Rhode Island? We got one. All right, one. It's been a while. Two. Right. I think I went to 9 of them, or 9 or 10 of them, and then had to take a hiatus. But I am honored to be here. It actually all started here in Rhode Island. And so if you notice, this is actually in Rumford, this picture of the merry-go-round. And so I was the keynote speaker here in, I think it was 2016. And I was just about to publish this book. I actually have a bunch of copies. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to just give them out. Because I want you guys, yeah, you're welcome. I want you guys to, it's not about making $1 million. It's all about touching 1 million lives. So I'm going to talk about communication. And we're going to talk about, get this here, and I actually have some handouts for you. They're on every other seat. One of them is a kind of an approach that we take at our company. It's a person-centered care approach, and it's about a social history. So if you're a caregiver, regardless whether you work in a company or you have caregiving at home, this is a really great tool for you. You can add to it too. There's certain things I don't have on there. Like one of the things I would put on there for me is that I brush my teeth in the shower. Don't judge me, just know that about me, because that might be something very important, especially when you look at me and say, Kelly, do you want to take a shower? And what do I say? Yeah. Or I say, no, I already took one, right? I didn't do anything to get dirty. Or yes, where's my toothbrush? So it's so important to make sure that you share with your caregivers, your team, and know those things that this person values or considers home. So the overview today, we're going to talk about person-centered care and what that is. We're going to talk about manifestation of behaviors, which is sometimes people don't like the word behavior, right? If I said to you, the principal calls you because your son's behavior, what do you automatically think? Right? And I don't. I like to take that word back. Behaviors are is a compass for us to learn. So we're going to talk a little bit about what behaviors are. Some are good, some are bad. We just have to navigate through them. Introducing new people in new places. Navigating through behaviors, and then just a pill or a plan. So we'll talk about that. And then at the end of the day, what is the person's brass ring? So has anybody ever heard of person-centered care before? Person-centered care. So David Troxell and Virginia Bell wrote a great book called A Dignified Life, and it's about person-centered care. Actually, Rhode Island, as well as New Hampshire and Maine, Alzheimer's Association adopted the habilitation modules, which is another form of person-centered care. The Eden Alternative, Montessori School. It's all about identifying the individual and not just treating everybody the same. And so my person-centered care and what my company uses is my book, Brass Ring Memoirs, Encouraging Stories Using Practical Methodologies. But we call it Brass Ring is our person-centered care. They're all relatively the same, right? They talk about this. What's the medical diagnosis, right? What kind of medications are there? And what are their treatments? What is that plan? And then social, how do they communicate? How do they navigate around their environment? And then preferences, their day-to-day routines. I drink coffee black. I drink high-octane coffee, right? Now think about it. Let's say you have a person that starts going to adult day. And instead of having coffee at home, now they're having coffee at the adult day. But oh, lo and behold, they're drinking decaffeinated coffee there. How do you think their day is going to go? Exactly, headaches. And you know what, like you and I, we're like, oh man, we got a bad headache. Do you think the person with memory care sometimes can say that? No, they're going to show it. They're going to show it by lashing out to somebody or getting angry. So it's really important to make sure we know those things. And that's the same whether it be a daycare, adult day, or a residential living. Make sure you know what kind of coffee, because those first 72 hours can be tough. And then the life story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm going to talk about these three things, and the first one being the brass ring. So again, I'm really proud to be here. It's almost feel like I've gone full circle. I was at, this is actually another picture from Rumford. How many people have ever done this game? I'll go all over the country, and the more west I go, people look at me like, what the hell is that, right? I come here, everybody knows what it is, right? So there are 11 merry-go-rounds in the United States, at least before COVID. There were 11 merry-go-rounds in the United States, Rumford having one of them, Woods Hole has another one, where the kids would line up and get on the merry-go-round, right? Does everybody know the story? I heard a couple of people. Okay, so all right, in Rumford, they have this merry-go-round. Little kids would want to, or the adult parent, whoever it was, would want to get on the horse, but they wouldn't want to get on this one. And they wouldn't want to get on this one. They want to get on the one that's closest to the arm that's outside of the merry-go-round. Now, in the arm is a bunch of silver rings. There's only one of them that's brass. And so I use this as a metaphor. If you think about it, if you're a short kid, you look up and you want to make sure that there's a bar curved. What does that make the horse do? Go up and down, so now you got a shot to get that brass ring, right? I did see a couple of hands raised. So my next question for those people that raise their hand that says, I did do this before, my next question is, how many of you got this? Tell me the truth, raise your hand. All right, 2 people. You didn't steal, oh, no, these are fake. These are fake, I love that. She says, I gave mine back. All right, so when you gave it back, what did you get? A free ride on the merry-go-round. I don't know about you, but I don't know if you can see her over there because this is kind of dark. Her face is lit up, right? Lit up. We've got 2. Right? The other ones that actually did it, I did it as well. We're still going to therapy because we didn't get it, right? So one of the things I remember my mother saying to me after I got off the ride, very disappointed because I didn't get the brass ring, she looked at me and said, you know what? The sun's going to come up the next day, right? And so you think about memory care, and you think about the challenges that we have and face every single day. Some days we get the brass ring, and some days we don't, right? And so that's the premise of my program. But one of the things I want to really share is that oftentimes as caregivers, right, we don't have memory loss, but the person we care for does. So what happens is oftentimes we're so white-knuckled, right? Remember when we said the person has to have a shower? Sometimes we're so white-knuckled, and we're the caregiver. We know what's best. We have to make sure that we do what we need to do. We lose sight that the person with memory loss has a brass ring too, right? And so this book is all about that. It's about making sure that you understand when to hold on to yours. The main objective is to get them together. The main objective, Kelly, do you want to take a shower? I say no. Kelly, here's your toothbrush, your water's fine. That's putting them together, right? But I'll tell you something, if you can't get me in the shower because I don't want to brush my teeth, do me a favor. Which one do I want you to drop? Say it again. The white-knuckled one. Drop the white-knuckled one. Let the person choose. You know what? Even if they're soiled, give them a break. Have a cup of coffee. Go back later. We never want to force anybody into anything. So I'm a true opponent of being non-pharmacological. How else can we do this? Can I step back? Can we listen to music first and get them, you know, in a place that's a better space than where they are now, right? So, and I know sometimes we even if you have caregivers, you might get mad at the caregiver, say, hey, why didn't you give X, Y, Z, to my loved one? Just be mindful of the fact that we never want to jeopardize the dignity of a person. Our main objective is to get these two rings, wherever that other one is, together, right? Get them together. Anybody have any questions? All right, and you can, sure we'll have something at the end for that, but every chapter in my book has a title or a little quote. So this one here says, we need to care as much about preventing broken spirits as we do about preventing broken limbs. Yes?
Do you do classes or lectures for facilities? Because
Yes, I do.
there have been, my fiance has been in 2 facilities so far, and the reality is the caregivers don't
Yeah.
care. They're there to make their most of them don't.
Yeah.
They make a few dollars an hour. The place is trying to get people as cheap as they can.
And that's why it's important to when you do your searching and when you look at your communities, ask them about, the trainings that they have. So I know it's not easy, but I do that. I actually have 18 properties of my own, not in the Rhode Island area though. But again, I've had my heart is in Rhode Island for sure. So actually, Rabbi Sam said this, and I think it's so important for us to make sure that we're valuing not only the scatter rugs that may be causing a falls risk, but also the words that come out of our mouth and what we say, and are we impacting them in a negative way. And so we'll get over that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So the other part, and you actually have this, so you have a stapled, like it's a person-centered care approach paperwork that you can write on, you can use, you can make copies, you can change. This here is homework, and this comes right out of my 8-hour training. I give this to all associates. I give this to all caregivers, all families as well. So if you look at this, this is an iceberg. I know I'm not an artist, but it's the best I could have done, right? It's the best I could do. So it's your homework today. 10% of who I am is on the surface. 10%. What do you see about me? What do you see? What do you know about me right now?
You like to shower.
I like to shower. What else?
You're very upfront.
Up front. I shoot from the hip. You either love me or you hate me.
You're brunette.
I'm brunette. From a bottle, I'm brunette. COVID, I was gonna go gray like everybody else, but I didn't. What else? Wait a minute, can you see something?
You're married.
I'm married. So the married part is above the iceberg, right? Everything else is pretty much above the iceberg. But how about divorce? Is that above the iceberg? No. And I'm not R.J. Rowling, so being an author is also underneath the iceberg. You know it now because I told you, but if you just met me at a grocery store, would you know that about me? Right? 90% of who I am is underneath the surface. 90% of who you are is underneath the surface. And your loved one, too, or the person you care for. 10% is only on the top, right? And so it's really important to share with your care team the good, the stuff I can't wait to share with you, the bad, the stuff I'm going to avoid saying, and the ugly, the stuff I hope the hell you never find out about. We all have it. Every single one of us has the good, the bad, and the ugly underneath our iceberg. Things that we regret, right? Missed opportunity, tragedy, all of it's under there. And so my question to you, as I think the majority of you are family members, why do you not want to share everything that's under, and this is a question that I really want you to answer. Why is it hard to share everything that's under the iceberg? Why is it hard? Judgment. It's personal. Keep going. Oh, I want you to know something. In my 8-hour classes, I never tell anybody no. How great is that? You're all going to be right today no matter what you say. Because think about it. If I looked at you all day long in this hour and I said, no, don't, stop, you're wrong, how would that make you feel? You'd be afraid to say something, right? Think about the people we care for. No, don't, stop shouldn't exist, right? Now, listen, I'm not saying that if they're hurting themselves or someone else, that's different. But if they're saying that it's Wednesday and it's really Friday, who cares? And that's hard. You know why it's hard? because I love my mom and dad. I love them dearly. They actually live with me. They're 90 years old. They live in an in-law apartment at my home. And they taught me right from wrong. They taught me good from bad. And they taught me never to lie. And I fail sometimes, right? But I know that when I'm caring for somebody with memory loss, it's not about me being right anymore. When I walk into memory care, anything that they say, as long as they're not hurting anybody else, they're rock stars. And that makes me feel good. So I look at my mother all the time and I say, listen, I went to work today and what I did is I threw everything you taught me out the window. And she's proud of me just the same. And I think that's hard for us because we learn. I mean, think about it. You're married 60 years or so, you can complete each other's sentences. And what happens if they can't complete yours? Or you're not able to complete theirs? It's difficult. I get it. And it's so important to be able to share with the people that you care for, share with your caregivers what's under the iceberg. So we said maybe it's personal, maybe we're embarrassed. I had a caregiver once at my community look at me and say, I think family members don't tell us what's under the iceberg because they're afraid we're not going to take them. And I was sad. I was like, you know what? You're probably right. But let me tell you something. It's not our first rodeo. I've been doing this for 35 years. And the day that I tell you I know everything about memory care, I won't be standing up here anymore. I won't be standing up here anymore. I need to learn from you. Our teams need to learn from you. And yes, I've learned a lot through the years. So some of the challenges that you have at home, the not showering, the wandering, maybe aggression, maybe those little habits that you're trying to get them to break, those things happen in our communities too. They happen in adult day too. So having people as resources, having people sharing that information is good stuff. Because this is the sixth leading cause, right, of death. There are some challenges, and we want to, I say to my teams, how lucky do you feel, and how do you want to be cared for? Right? How lucky do you feel, and how you want to be cared for? So again, making sure that we share what's under the iceberg. Don't worry. The more, I will say this, and I say this to my teams all the time, say to families, please, the more you tell us about what's under your loved one's iceberg, the good, the bad, and the not so good, the more successful they'll become, right? I had a resident once who wouldn't take a shower. I was in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Oh, no, this was Milwaukee, actually. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, he wouldn't take a shower. And so I said to the wife, I said, hey, you know, we love having your husband with us, and he's just been such a joy, but we're having some challenges with bathing. And she said, oh, well, I never had a problem at home. You know, we lived on a 100-acre farm, and he would go out at 3 o'clock in the morning and start milking the cows and doing the hay and feeding the chickens, and then all of a sudden he'd come back in and do that again, you know, 8 hours later, and then around 4 o'clock, I think it was, she would have supper on the table. He would grab an old Milwaukee beer, and he'd sip that beer, and then he went into the shower. He took the old Milwaukee beer with him, and he had more sips. And then he went and he sat down and watched, you know, whatever, you know, Jeopardy. And then he fell asleep. And the old Milwaukee beer was finished, and he went to bed. Every single night he did that. And it was his feeling like this was what my gift to myself after working so hard all day. And she didn't want to tell me at first because she was afraid that I was going to judge her, that we were going to judge her for drinking old Milwaukee beer. I'm like, oh my God, thank God they still make it. Called the doctor up, got an order, and every day at 4 o'clock this guy had old Milwaukee beer, had dinner, and then we showered him. No problem at all. So it's those little things. People can eat Haagen-Dazs ice cream in the shower. People can eat cookies in the shower. You can have a glass of wine in the shower. Life can be messy. It's okay. Have fun with it. Do things that can be outside the box. Don't try to feel like you have to be so white-knuckled on what's the right thing to do. Because not all things we do in our lives is socially acceptable. And that's okay. It's got to be okay, right? Because you're gonna hurt yourself emotionally and even physically. So your homework today, if you so choose, is to take that iceberg and put your name on the top, and then start writing the things that are above the iceberg and things that are below. Make a copy, or I have extras here. Take it for your loved one, right? And have your caregivers that are helping you, or the team, yourself, your family, and write down what is above the iceberg and what's below, right? And then maybe think about some unconventional things that can get those brass rings together. So here's some more homework for you. I like homework. Now I don't know if you're going to do this, but if you leave the same time I do, I want you to unroll your window in your car. Roll them, it's a beautiful day, unroll the window, and I want you to belt out a song that somebody sang to you when you were a kid, or that you sang to some little kid. Maybe when if you're a mom or an auntie and you sang this song, maybe somebody taught you years ago. So let me give you the picture. My daughter and my son, I sang Natalie Merchant, Come Take a Trip in My Airship, when they were kids, and nursed them, you know, bathed them. I would sing this song. Then they got 5 and it was Barney. So they, you know, no more mama singing. And then all of a sudden, my daughter was 14 and my son was 16. We're sitting at the dining room table and my daughter says, hey, you remember that song you used to sing to me? And all of a sudden, just the 3 of us at that table, started singing, come take a trip in my airship, come sail away to the stars, we'll travel to Venus, we'll sail away to Mars. No one will see while we're kissing, no one will know as we swoon. So come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon. How will I feel when I'm 85 years old and somebody sings that song to me? It's deep, right? It's deep stuff. And so what I say to my team is, like an iceberg, 90% of who we are is underneath the surface. And so don't be afraid to talk as a team. So this says family, but I'm saying for you guys to talk to your team, whoever your team is, and we're going to talk about that in a second. You just might jog their memory on something that is going to be impressionable for them. So whether it be a song that maybe they learned or you learned, it could be in another language. I want you to belt it out today on your way home. 2 things I want you to think about. I want you to think about, did I know all the words? And you'll probably surprise yourself, because my kids and I knew all the words after years of never singing it, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, how did it make you feel? How did it make you feel, right? I don't sing that song just for everybody. I sing it for you guys today, but that song is special to me. And I can only imagine if I'm 85 years old and I have memory loss, I'm going to feel like I'm a part of my tribe, like I belong, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about, here's my favorite chapter. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. I'm going to show you a bookshelf that I absolutely love. So here's my favorite slide. Sorry, this is crop top. How does a peacock feel? Fabulous. What else? How else does a peacock feel? When you see a peacock, how do you think they feel? Colorful, beautiful, proud. Okay, there's 2.
Sexy, because
Now wait, that's right, sexy. Now, do they just stand there?
no, they do.
Oh, no, they don't, do they? What do? What do you need to strut besides a glass of wine? You need confidence, right? So in my book, I talk about the fact that pride, beauty, and confidence is oftentimes robbed with this disease, right? As people start to fail in our lives and maybe there's no diagnosis, we're like, hey, you forgot again. What are you doing, right? What's wrong with you? And so it's really important and impactful that we make sure that when we're caring for somebody, and I do believe, you know, once you see someone that's having some challenges, get tested, have them identified. That way you know what you're working with and you know who you're loving and who you're caring for. So my peacock moment is not only for the person you're caring for, but it's for you too, right? It's for you. When somebody says you're a great sister or you're an awesome husband, I know we don't feel like you're doing good all the time, but you're doing a great job. When people look at you and say, hey, you went to this program today, good for you. Do me a favor, look at them and say, thank you. Right? Just because you didn't get it right yesterday, guess what? Just like my mother said, the sun's going to come up the next day. Right? Don't beat yourself up. Nothing good can come of that. Learn from what happened and then try again and use your resources. So I look at this, and this is person-centered care. There's the person, and home history is so important. Habits, rituals, and routines. Think about how many pillows you guys sleep with. right? That's a habit and routine. Make sure that you can still maintain the person's feel-good techniques, right? Another keynote speaker for this conference was Kisses for Elizabeth, Stephanie Zeman. Phenomenal book, loved it. And she talks about feel-good techniques and how we have feel-good techniques, right? But the person with memory loss may not remember theirs. And so that person needs you to remember it for them. What did they like to do? Do they like little back rubs, right? And you know, they may not be able to drink anymore, but I don't know about you. When I put a wine glass in my hand, even if it has water in it, I feel special, right? So think about those little things that we can do, and they have free beer, right? They have alcohol-free things. They can still make a person feel that way, and maybe if they can't drink because of medicine. But family is so important, and family caregivers, first responders. There's a lot of resources out there. I don't know about Rhode Island, but I know that there's some grants in certain communities where the town may sponsor an event or a support, whether it be a tracking system or a good neighbor program to help you if you have someone who wanders. The primary care is very important. Medical caregiver support. Listen, so medicine, nurses, I don't know if there's any nurses out here. I love you all. I'm not a nurse. Nurse has a tool belt, right? And the nurses has the tool belt of what's the person, what medically is going on with the person, and how can we treat them. Right now, if they have a team, then they've got all this other stuff, which is that non-pharmacological, right? And having that support. You too, as a family member, you've got the Alzheimer's Association, so don't think you're alone, right? You've got them, you've got the physician that's taking care of your loved one. You've got other resources, care managers and other people that can help you, and through the association, you can find that out. But you've got people, even though I know sometimes it feels like we're on an island, right? I've been running an Alzheimer's support group, an early onset for the last 8 years for the Alzheimer's Association. I've got people that are in this program from Hawaii because it's all virtual, but I've been doing it for so long. And so support groups are so huge. And one time a guy looked at me and said, "Oh, I don't need a support group. I took care of my mother and my mother-in-law, and now I'm taking care of my wife." He goes, "I don't need a support group. I know Alzheimer's." And so I said to him, I said, "You know what? You may know Alzheimer's." And I said, I'm not going to disagree with you one bit. I said, "But when you're sitting in a support group and there's a young guy sitting right next to you, he hasn't been where you are. So do me a favor. Don't think of yourself just as a student. Be that teacher, right? Be that resource for somebody else who's having a hard day." So I will tell you, support groups are really cool, and you should get into them if you're not, because you might be that person. So again, the health and well-being in a solid team, the health and well-being of the resident is the individual is number one. How about yourself, right? You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I will tell you, the one thing I didn't do is my chapter 1. Chapter 1 is not about the brass ring. When I wrote my foreword, actually, the person who wrote my foreword said, "Hey, your title is called Brass Ring, but chapter 1 isn't. You have that on chapter 2. Why did you do that?" I said, "Do me a favor, read chapter 1 and let me know." Chapter 1 is about you. It's about you because you're no good at doing what you want to do if you don't take care of yourself first. Chapter 1 is all for you. I want you to be fresh. It's the first chapter. Read it and read it again. I think chapter 12 says if you don't get it right, go back and read chapter 1. Take care of yourself first. Very important. Because listen, if you're anything like me, I get it. I was really good at taking care of other people, but not so good at taking care of myself. I still have challenges with that. But I understand that I need to put my own mask on first before attending others. So keep an open-minded to different viewpoints. I know sometimes I'll hear, and it doesn't matter who they are. I'll hear some people go, "Oh, medicine." And then I'll hear people say, "No medicine at all." I'm a non-pharmacological person. I would rather use non-pharmacological approaches. But I have contacts in, because if not, I couldn't see who you were. I couldn't even see any of you, right? So I do have a form of treatment in my eyes. So I don't believe that treatment at all costs is a bad thing. But I do believe that we should be looking at non-pharmacological approaches first, right? And then if they don't work, don't feel that you have to keep going with this non-pharmacological approach. Maybe there's something else you can use. And let me tell you something, vitamin T, I'm not talking trazodone. Be open-minded to Tylenol, right? And so we just want to be looking at medications as a last resort, but I do look at, and I wouldn't even look at it as a last resort if it's pain-related. Or if they have a urinary tract infection, get them in to have an antibiotic real quick, because that might be causing some challenges, right? So an antibiotic, absolutely, go for that first. Everyone has a point of view and must be respected, so just be open-minded. Again, I'm not a nurse. I work with a lot of medical in the field, and thank God the teams that I work with now are very open-minded to non-pharmacological as well as pharmacological. Be patient, follow up. How many days does it take to make or break a habit? Before you answer that, there's a myth out there. It used to be, before COVID, a certain amount of days. Anybody know what it was? 30. Yeah, it was 21, so you're close enough. 21 days, that was before COVID. Then they started tracking everybody, saying, God darn it, and they had to go back to their car and get their mask, right, when you went to a grocery store. So on average, it's 66 days. Now listen, if somebody said to me, Kelly, and the reason why I say on average is that, Kelly, you're going to start exercising after supper every night for 1 hour. It's going to take me a heck of a lot more than 66 days, because it's not something I really care to do. But if somebody says to me, Kelly, you're going to have to get a back rub 15 minutes after every time you eat, I'll be like, yeah, who's next? Come on, here's my back, right? So it'll be less than 66 days. So on average, it's that. But I need to tell you something. It's no different for the person with memory loss. And a lot of people look at me with two heads, like, wait a minute, they can't remember I came to visit, or they can't remember what time was supper. What are you telling me that they're going to remember through novel learning? Well, let me tell you, they do. And I'll give you proof of it. So we have communities, right? And so I have memory care neighborhoods, and we escort the resident to the dining room for breakfast. We escort the resident to the dining room at their chair, their table with their friends for lunch, and then for dinner. And we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again, right? 66 days or a little after, it could be a little after, novel learning. Guess where they sit? They sit exactly where we've been having them sit for the last 66 days. And wait a minute, how about if somebody sits in their seat? Oh, yeah, right? Oh, right. So that's proof right there that somebody with memory loss can make or break a new habit. And so don't look at pills to be the answer all the time. And when I say pills, I mean that antipsychotics, right? So let's see, can we create a focus or a habit? All right, so it's the same with them. So I thank God for behaviors. And so again, it's a navigational. Whose behavior can I control? Your own, right? And trust me, I don't even do that well. I'd be a size 6. I think that's in the book, actually, if I could. Is it a problem? So are they causing harm, unwanted sexual acts, or impeding the functioning of the day? So just be mindful. I have a whole section on sex in the book. Sometimes people think just because people are old, they shouldn't have sex, and I disagree at the age of 57. I think it's fine. And so I'm not talking about I'm talking about inappropriate, meaning they may be putting themselves on someone else, right? Or a private act in a public place, like masturbating in a living room, right? So those things are different. Impeding the functioning of the day. So that's somebody who may be hollering, help, 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 right throughout your space. What's going on? It may not that they're looking for help. They might be looking for something else. So again, just kind of looking at that and identifying it. Oh my gosh, have you ever heard this? Do we have anything for this person? Right? So these are some of the challenges that you can face that you may be rushing out to asking, do we have anything for this person? So 65% of individuals that have memory loss may wander. There's two types of wandering. There's wandering with an agenda. I want to go home, or I have to go to the bathroom, right? Maybe I'm nonverbal and I'm doing this. I'm telling you I have to go to the bathroom. And then wandering without an agenda could be somebody that maybe just is, right? And they could grab the doorknob and still get into a dangerous spot. So that's another. Causing harm to themselves or others. Exhaustive crying, so something from the frontal temporal lobes. Hoarding, shopping. Listen, every hotel I go in, I take all the shampoos and conditioners. So I'll be the hoarder and the shopper, but I'm not, and what happens is people go, oh, Kelly's in it, in that room again, grabbing all the stuff, right? Well, when my daughter comes in and visits me, she's gonna go, score, good job, Ma. She's not gonna scold me, because all my life I've collected shampoos, conditioners, and things from the hotels, and then when there was a earthquake in Haiti, or there was a fire, a flood in New Orleans, a little white pickup truck would pick up all the stuff from my church. And guess what? The bag with all my little vanity packs would go off to that country or that state, right? So when people don't know what's under a person's iceberg, they can think it's a bad behavior, when in fact that one was actually charitable, right? So having a catastrophic reaction, something maybe so simple, but you know what? It could be in their mind terrible, right? It could be anything that's under the iceberg that we don't know about. Because that's the other answer why families don't share. Maybe because they don't know, right? Something that might have happened. Not protecting themselves and exhibiting inappropriate sexual behavior, just to name the few that we go for that pill. I love this slide. It just, oftentimes we're at a situation where the behavior just happened. And we're like, ooh, right? Listen, just because I'm an expert, and so are you guys, by the way, doesn't mean I get it right all the time. There's times where I've had little sweat beads underneath my nose and thinking, hey, man, I didn't get that right. That wasn't a peacock moment. Even the best of intentions, right, might be challenging. So that's when I look at this and I say, hey, listen, did I just create a question to that person that made it too demanding? Was it too complicated? Was I trying to get them into my reality, right? Was the person frightened? Were they tired, hungry, lonely, or in pain? Right? These are all things that we need to ask ourselves. This is my favorite slide. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this before. Go on your search engine and put in amygdala bookshelf, and you'll get this. And so I just think it's great, and it really is it's from the habilitation. They actually put it in the habilitation modules too. This is a healthy brain. Does anybody know how much a healthy brain weighs? Approximately? 3 pounds. Yep, weighs 3 pounds. So here's a healthy brain. Here's logic, fact, and reasoning is the hippocampus. The amygdala is the emotional part of it. Childhood, teenage years, adult, middle age, and old age. So child is where you learn primary colors, your numbers. Then you go up to high school, you learned algebra. I still don't know why I did. And then you've got your adulthood. This is how you navigate your home. Maybe you learn a trade, right? And then you go in middle age, maybe you downsize. Maybe you're buying a smaller home, right? Maybe you're going into an old age senior living, and you still have to navigate. Oh my gosh, are we navigating health insurance even to this day, right? As we get older, every year we have to look at our Medicare and our parts and A's and B's and all that stuff. So I think it's important to know that we're always, the hippocampus, always logic, fact, and reasoning. The amygdala is the feelings. This is the emotions in our life. So this is where on this, I always think about Halloween for me. I had the big candy bars. Oh yeah. I had no snack size at my age, right? We had the big candy bars. I remember going to the neighbor's house. They want to come in. We have to talk. They make little popcorn balls. So these are the emotional things that really excited us when we were younger. They could be tragic too. So anything good, bad, or indifferent, fights that we've had with our spouses or kids, deaths, right? All of that is over here, the emotional. He has early stage memory loss. What happens when somebody has a diagnosis of some form of dementia? What starts? What do we see first? Could be. What do we see? The first signs, and we're like, wait a minute, something's going on. Yeah, so what are they doing? Because it's short-term memory loss, what are they doing? They're repeating, right? What time is supper? Do you know what time supper is, sir?
6 o'clock.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Do you know what time supper is?
Yeah, it's at 5 o'clock.
Thank you. I like your socks. Hi there. You look like you know. Do you know what time supper is?
5 o'clock.
Nice. Hi, I like that. I have a pink tourmaline, looks like that.
Pretty.
Do you know what time supper is?
I think it's at 5.
Thank you. Right, so we've heard that before, right? And so what happens is sometimes we get frustrated. right? Because I mean, I'm 57, so we can debate all day long how much I just asked. But now let me ask you a question. I have Alzheimer's. I'm 85 and I have Alzheimer's. How many times did I just ask what time was supper?
Once. Probably that time.
Did you hear what she said? I only asked it once. I only asked it once. But this is what I hear now. So I'm going to do this again. I want you to say to me, if I come up to you, and I'm going to use the front only because I like you, and it makes it nice for everybody to see. So I just want you to say to me what time is supper, and I'm going to show you what I've seen in my 35 years.
Well, you know it's at 6 o'clock.
You say to me, what time is supper?
Oh, what time is supper?
Oh, it's 5 o'clock.
Okay.
What time is supper?
I told you already, silly. It's 5 o'clock.
What time is supper?
It's 5 o'clock.
What time's supper?
You know what? You're going to forget anyways. I'll just come get you when it's time. And so look at the bookshelf on the right. Are there any books off the shelf? No. So the left, yes. The right, no. Which means they can still feel. Right? They can still feel. So how would you feel if somebody did that to you? Just yell it out. How would you feel? How would you feel if I did that? Condescending, right? Oh, silly, I told you already. It's 5 o'clock.
I'm not a kid.
Not a kid.
I'm my own man.
Yeah.
I can go myself. You know, that's what my
Yeah.
fiance says. I'm my own man. I should know.
Yeah. How about how would you act if I mean, how would you feel? Right. Yeah. Right, right. Could make you angry. It could make you sad, especially how about early stage memory loss, right? Somebody that just got diagnosed might go, oh, I just forgot again. I have that thing where I forget, right? Depression and Alzheimer's go hand in hand. So this is just, it's so impactful to understand the importance of the amygdala and how we as caregivers should be looking at it as we care for them. So here's a lot of books off the shelf with the hippocampus, right? So, and then there's the amygdala where they can still feel. So I'll give you an example. Let's say boy meets girl when they're children. They date. He goes off to the military, but not before they get married. He learns a trade in the military. She goes and runs the household, right? So there's a lot of stuff that's going on their logic, fact, and reasoning. They're negotiating life. They're working through life. On the right side, this is where the babies are born. This is where the vacations. These are the fights. These are the accidents. It's the emotional aspect of life, right? And if you look at it, it doesn't deteriorate like the rest. Now let's say the husband died. He's on the old age. But she remembers all this, and she remembers all this about him. Have you seen my husband? Do you know where my husband is? Have you seen my husband? Right? And so what do you say then? Anybody? It's hard, right? So I always ask the family and talk to the family about how do we do this? How do you want to do this? And so I talk about fiblets. I don't like to throw fiblets around. If somebody's high functioning and you get caught in a fiblet, they can get mad at you for a long time. A fiblet is a therapeutic lie that decreases anxiety. But it might be that, hey, and this is a true story. I was actually in Rhode Island. I was a memory care director, and one of the residents said, hey, do you know where my wife is? And thank God I knew it was under her iceberg. I looked at it and I go, hey, it's 8:15. I bet you she's at school. She was a local elementary school teacher. So I was able to tell him that, and he goes, oh, okay. Now, did I let that go? No, I went right to the nurse and said, there's a medical change in condition. So if any time you see someone that has a medical change in condition, whether it be home or not, you want to definitely have that person tested. For what, maybe? A UTI, delirium, right, that can be reversed through an easy antibiotic. So paying attention, just because somebody has a memory loss and a decline doesn't mean because they're declining, it's just Alzheimer's or it's just a disease. It might be something else, so we pay attention. But the person can still feel. So can you imagine if you say, your husband died, don't you remember? Look at the feeling. How could they feel? Throw out some words of how the feeling. Terrible. Shocked. Oh my God, he died? How about angry? Who the hell are you? I had breakfast with my husband this morning. right? There can be a lot of emotions because the emotions are still intact. End-stage memory loss, end stage, right? This is where a lot of books are off the shelf, and in my book I talk about 3 books that are very valuable as a person progresses. And that's one of them is their name, right? Their name. No honey, sweetie baby, unless you're their spouse. But if they forgot that you're their spouse, I will tell you, if somebody yells, Kelly, is that you? I'm going to turn. But if somebody looks at me at 85 and I have Alzheimer's and they say, hey, what's your name? I'm going to be able to give you the emotional part of my name. My mother won. I have 3 older brothers, but my mother won. My father wanted something, and thank God he didn't get it. But my mother won, and my name is, but I may not be able to recall it. But if you say, Kelly, is that you? Now I know that you're a part of my tribe. And there's no greater act than you can give a person with memory loss than having them feel like they belong, right? Kelly, is that you? If you work in a community, if you have that support, make sure they're calling your person their name or their nickname, right? It's extremely valuable. So again, really, really important stuff. As a person declines, music. Music, I mean, look at Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, right? He was able to perform long into his disease, when in some days he was considered failure to thrive. Music is huge. So like I said, today when you go outside and start singing that song, belt it out. And then learn the song of the person you're caring for with too. And understand that that's a really cool thing. So non-pharmacological approaches, if you're going for a car ride, if you're going for a trip or even a doctor's appointment or anything, I brought these because this is just some things that I've used before. These are conversational cards. You can get them on Amazon. They're conversational cards. You pick it up and you start looking at them. They can have reminiscing, a rotary phone. Oftentimes, because that comes from the past, because oftentimes that which comes from the past is often far more real and successful than the current. So that's where they can probably even tell you their phone number, right? That's one. Another thing is sometimes nurture nature. So some places have $200 baby dolls. This one came from Walmart. I'm proud to say it was $9.88. The only thing that I think that's very important is eyes have to open and eyes have to close. Eyes have to open and eyes have to close. I actually took care of someone, and it's in the book. For time's sake, I'm not going to say it, but there was a person who had a SIDS child. So eyes open, eyes closed. And this is nurture nature. This is beautiful. So I know years ago when I first started out in this industry, I had some people say, oh, that's so sad. That's so childish. Why would you do that? This is, I belong, right? I'm connected. Nothing better than that. For real kitty, whatever that is. Now, these are my favorite. And I made these. I should patent them, for gosh sakes. Sorry, baby. I can even pass them around. So I made these. It's Walmart, another Walmart special. But I took a spoon, a plastic spoon. Think about that when you're with somebody, right? You can talk about fishing, right? Oh, that must be a big one. That's the tight line, right? So I'm going to leave them up here so later on, because you'll totally distract me if you play with them while I'm talking. But they're really cool, right? And so it's just a fun thing and a reminiscing thing, non-pharmacological approach to connecting with them. So again, here's some examples. I lost my little pointer. Weighted blanket. Sometimes you'll see at Mace, TJ Maxx, they'll have the doll, not a doll, like a bear or a cat that's weighted that you could put in the microwave. Make sure you pay attention to the cautions. But sometimes they have lavender smell. Aromas are really important. So this is chapter 9 in my book. It says, I want to go home. My son, actually, I quoted him, and it really wasn't this. It actually was, hey, Ma, when you croak, I want that tablecloth. And I said, oh, George, thank you so much. Why? And he goes, because I want to remember. Like, we've had it forever. And I like the memories that we've had around it, right? So think about home. Home necessarily isn't always a place. Oftentimes, it's the things that we have. It's my favorite coffee mug. It's the seat that I sit in after dinner. It's those things. It's the Afghan that I look at my son and say, don't put your toe through that, because who made me that won't make me another. That's home, right? So look at that, and if you have someone that you're bringing into your own space, make sure you have what's home to them. Look at their surroundings, evaluate what they do, and it doesn't have to be huge. It could be small stuff, but I say if you're going into an assisted living, do me a favor, don't buy and feel guilty and buy them the new furniture. You get the new furniture, you give us the old furniture, because that which comes from the past is often far, far more real than the current, right? So make sure that we get the old stuff. That's the best for that person, because they're going to remember it more. Introducing new caregivers, make sure that they speak the name. Make sure that they understand what the achievements are, that they stay away from the road not taken, right? So if somebody has a button, make sure that they aren't pushing that button. They got enough going on in their lives, right? What makes them feel proud, beautiful, and confident? I have my Dove soap out there. So I travel for a living all over the country. I'm in Arizona next week, and I will not bring my Dove soap. But when I get home and I smell it, I know I'm home, right? So these are things that you want to make sure that you give your loved one if they are going to be in a residential living, or if they're moving in with you. Make sure that you're bringing, don't let them use your product. Make sure that you identify theirs. Do you know Walmart still has Jean-Naté on the shelf? You can still buy Jean-Naté on the shelf. It's crazy. But there might be somebody who likes it. It's extremely important to share what's under your loved one's history, right? The more information you share, the more it's going to assist the person that's helping you caregive for them. Intervention huddles. So this is kind of a system. We use this for my communities, and I wanted to just touch upon this, which is real time. If you have an incident that happened in your home, you call the helpline, right? Call the association, call your physician, call your team if you have daughters or sons or people that are helping you, right? And set up a meeting and talk about what just happened, right? It's so important. I just want to be mindful that you don't want to just grab a pill right away. First, you want to learn and understand what it could be. And it could be a UTI, so that it might be an antibiotic that you need. But do it within 24 hours, invite key players, and then the 10,000 vantage foot are those people that are outside of your circle, because they may have that ability, like a support group, to be able to help you through the process. Always follow up. So pitfalls, this doesn't apply to you as much, but pitfalls might be, I don't even know where to start. So you're like, I'm just going to call the doctor and get a pill, right? And so we want you to make sure that you start and invite those key players. Don't be afraid. So what I talk about in my teams is, I don't need you to come up with answers. I want questions. I want you to ask me questions about the person, right? What's going on with them? And I have a case study at the end. Hopefully we'll have time. It's going to be in a few minutes that we can do, and I'll explain it. Physical, what's going on physically with them? What's going on environmentally? As a caregiver, and psychosocial. These are the things we're going to talk about. The chart is so important, behavior logs, and this is something that you can do at home. If there's a behavior after a meal, maybe the person needs a bowel movement, maybe they feel constipated. That would always get me in feeling upset. So those things you want to think about. Weights and vitals, have they lost weight, have they gained weight? Drooling, are they taking a medication that maybe has that metallic taste, or do they have pain in on their teeth, the receding gums, all those things where we think it might be a behavior that they're spitting on the floor, but they're telling us something's going on, right? So all that, social history and an open mind. Give all parties time to adjust. Again, we talked about 66 days on average, even with somebody with memory loss, just understand that. Review the effectiveness. I'm going to pass this one just for time's sake, because it's really this. Identify risk scope, which means that if you're home, I want you to know ahead of time, hey, this is what I can tolerate, and this is unsafe, right? When it's unsafe, what do you do? Who do you call? Make sure you have a resource, like maybe a notebook with people's phone numbers in it. And I'm going to talk about, I have a slide that I want to share with you. Document afterwards. So if there was a behavior that happened, document what it was. What time was it? Who was around? Was there a lot of TV noise? Was it not noise, right? Things like that. And then again, request that huddle. Talk to your people, whoever they are, whether it be that physician, family, friend, association, and just be able to talk it through, create interventions, and then give people time to create that intervention and successful. And I'm going to show you exactly what this means in a second. It's going to be right after this. Home safety. I put this slide in because I think it's so important for everyone to understand. Now listen, I don't like that commercial on TV, and again, I shoot from the hip, so you either like me or you don't, but I don't like that commercial on TV that talks right about a medication because somebody's angry with Alzheimer's. Not everybody gets angry with Alzheimer's, right? But it's on there, and it can happen where you're home and they get mad, and they look at you and they get mad at you. It's very important to make sure you have a safe space. Your safe space might be a place in your home that has a bottle of water, a door that can lock, maybe a track phone that you can use, right? Or something that's plugged in that you can call if you need to. Now again, it's not to alarm you, it's to make sure you're safe because you're important. And if something happens, and I had a guy once in my family who said, hey, I got woken up by the cops last night. I said, what happened? She said, I got 911, and my wife called 911 and said, hey, that's not my husband, there's a stranger in my bed. I said, I'm just glad that she was able to call 911 and not get the knife in the drawer, right? So again, just be mindful of that. Know your resources, know these support systems. If it looks like a beer and it seems like a beer, what is it? Yeah, you know what it was though? It was Breck shampoo and he drank half of it. Yeah, no word of a lie. So do me a favor, keep your product safe. Look at those Tide Pods and stuff. If you have them in your home, do me a favor, secure them up. Do not have them accessible for the person that you're caring for because they will eat them as candy. And because their reflexes are slow and their responses are slow, it's most likely going to go down before it comes up. And that can cause serious illness, if not death. So please, 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 things can look like candy at home. Alzheimer's Association has a safe return program. I highly recommend that. 65% of people wander. So a safe return program or trackers. Again, I shared this before where there is a grant in certain states that you may be able to get a tracker by your police department. I'm not sure. Just some color things that you can look at. Lime green, they did a study identifying that the road signs were the last things you see. So that's a nice color at home. Black is a bad color. Look at this, there's a black thing. I'm going to feel like I step over it. If you read the book Still Alice, she talks about that. So again, black's not a good color. I stay away from it. I don't like to scare anybody. Purple can go missing. It's a hoarding color. These are just some things. Red can increase your food intake by 27%, but it can also create an agitation. So there are active colors, yellow, red, and orange. Red is the worst, then it's orange, then it's yellow. So small doses of these colors are fine, large doses. So if you have a red a dining room, you may, if you want to go on a diet, you may want to change it to navy blue because navy blue is supposed to decrease appetite. I don't know, the jury's still out. I've got Farberware. What is it called? Fiestaware, it's still not working. But the red, think about it, KFC, Burger King, McDonald's, right? Chick-fil-A, they're onto something. Do I have time for this? All right. Do I? If you have to leave, I apologize, but I'm going to do this real quick. Arthur is a 79-year-old man who lives with Fran, his wife. She is having difficulty getting to him to take a shower. When she asks him, he says, no, I already did it, or I don't need to take a shower. And then she gets upset, so she ends up saying, hey, you stink, you got to take a shower. Of course, he digs his heels in that much more, and he wants no part of it. So now she's a mess. He's actually becoming agitated and digs his heels in, and Fran calls us because she's got a behavior. So the first thing I say to Fran is, let's breathe, right? Let's breathe. Let's keep an open mind. Is it a behavior that we have to address? So because it's a shower, we don't want skin breakdown, we're going to say yes. But it doesn't need to be a shower. It could be a sponge bath. It could be something else, right? And so we'll consider it a win if we can get him in the shower, but there's other things that we can do. So make sure you loosen up your brass ring. This is where you start loosening it up, right? So keep an open mind. Work as a team. So Fran has her son that lives next door, the daughter who lives far away, and the physician. So they meet. Now this is what I have in my book about what I look at when I support behaviors. Now the one thing I want to ask you is, if I say, He's nasty. Is that a behavior? He's nasty. No, it's a judgment, right? So be mindful of that. The person with dementia is not giving you a hard time. The person with dementia is having a hard time. An anonymous quote from Facebook. Great quote. So again, we want to make sure we get as specific as we can to that behavior. So his behavior is he doesn't want to take a shower. All right? So now we're going to look at physical, psychosocial, environmental, and healthcare. So physical. Arthur has arthritis. So these are the questions I ask the family. How is his physical health? Well, he's got arthritis. And he also has a problem with his vision. So he has issues with depth perception. What color is a shower? What color is a shower stall usually? What color is a shower chair? What color is the toilet? What color is the sink? Oh, and so on, right? So now we're having a hard time because the person doesn't know where the floor begins and where the chair ends. And you can't get them to loosen up their grip because they're scared half to death, right? That might be one reason why. And he has arthritis, so now there might be something else going on. Bathroom's cold, shower's on, there's a lip right in the shower chair and the stall is both white. Caregiver, she becomes agitated, and there's times where Arthur doesn't even recognize that she's his wife. So psychosocially, he feels, that his dignity is being jeopardized because he doesn't know who she is. So psychosocially, there's an effect. Now, environmental, getting the space ready, right? What can we do to the shower chair? Easy peasy. Doesn't cost a dime. What can we do that? I don't know about you, but I don't want to sit on a cold plastic white chair. Put a towel on it. Put a towel that maybe is his favorite color, too. Maybe lime green if he doesn't care about green because he's going to visually see that better because he has a problem with that. What are you going to do with the lip of the shower? What might you do with the lip of the shower? There's a lip, so they got to step over it. What might you do? Put a glow strip on it, right? Do something with that light, bright color there. Wait a minute, he's got arthritis. What might you do for him before you get him in the shower? 20 minutes before. Give him some Tylenol. Look at me, I'm saying medications. How cool is that, right? So these are some really neat non-pharmacological things you can do. Family decides to have the son give the shower. He lives next door. And he also remembers that his father used to embarrass him singing, "When the moon hits the pond, what is it, like a big pizza?" I'm going to totally crush that one. Sorry. That's amore. So he sings that in the shower. How do you think the connection is with that? Right? There's a connection. They're taking the brass rings and they're putting them together. So these are just some non-pharmacological approaches. Arthur's son volunteers, sings a song. Because of this, the son's successful. The wife now gets to recast her relationship back into the wife and not have to do the care on that part, right? Follow up. Always follow up. Did it work? What do we have to tweak? What's different, right? And to make sure that you guys, it's effective. What are brass rings? It's about feeling home and feeling the sense of belonging. Purpose, relief, fulfillment, content, forgiveness. Forgiveness is big, right? You guys are great at what you do, and I'm sure there's days it don't feel that way, right? Forgive yourself when you don't get it right and start again. And thank you very much.